Hello, what's up? Welcome to the Piston Friends channel, family channel. How you doing today? My name is Frank, aka Frank the Tank, aka Mr. Trying to Get That Money in the Bank. Now, what I'm working on today is a 2015 Honda Accord Sport. What we're doing today is the brakes. So if you got this vehicle and you're trying to figure out how to do it, come on, click my link, follow me, like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. Just go ahead and show us that love. That way I can keep posting videos like this. So as you can see, it's a beautiful car. Honda makes a good car. You are going to need some specialized tools for this. The way you do the normal take off the tire, jack it up from a good jack standpoint, make sure the wheels are chocked off. Before you start jacking it up, break the lug nuts, so that way you can have an easier time once the vehicle's in the air getting the lug nuts out. So I already did all that. The car is on the jack. I already got the lug nuts loose. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pause you right quick. I'm gonna take this tire off, and then we're gonna get into the rear brake pad situation. All right, so we got the wheel off the car. Rotor right here. I mean, there's some small grooves in it. It's not that bad. Brake pads will probably clean that up, but that's good. The pads themselves still have some meat, so that's pretty good. Nothing else looks bad. You always want to inspect the brake line and the bleeder valve screw. You also want to inspect these nice little rubber seals that go on the caliper, because these slide in and out with the caliper being pressed. So you need to make sure those are lubricated properly. So everything else looks good. This bolt right here is a 12 millimeter. See, right here, number 12. Good old number 12. All right, good on it. So we're going to crack that loose. And I believe the direction is to the front of the car. So we're going to crack those loose. Top one right here. There's a bottom one right here. Make sure that when you're doing this, you never let your caliper just hang on this brake line, because it'll cause this brake line to stretch out, and over time you'll start getting micro tears. And what those micro tears do is the hose itself, it's composed of multiple layers, and if the inner layer is damaged, the fluid on the inside of the hose will start seeping through the upper layer, and it'll create a bubble or it'll create a rupture. And that's something you never want to do. So when you take this bad boy loose, make sure you put it up somewhere tight where it's not going to fall down. All right, so let me get those loose, and then I'll be right back with you. All right, just a little update. You see how this one came loose. This one's easy to get to. Usually one of them will always have more pressure on it than the other. So you see right here above this little rubber seal, there is a metal, I don't know how well you can see that, but there is a metal catch ring. See that? And all you need to do is, for this car, luckily it was a 17 millimeter opening. The crescent wrench fits right over top, gives it good. And what you do is you use this as counter leverage to break the bottom one loose. So I already did that. Now I'm in the process of getting this one loose. So that's all good and gravy. I'll have you up in a second. All right, so now that you got both of the bolts off, the caliper does wiggle a little bit, but it's not coming loose. That's because Honda, like most of the other car manufacturers, they put special points on the inside of the brake pads to keep them from just sliding on and off, and it gives it more rigidity when the braking stops. So it has another piece that helps grip when it's stopping. So usually what they tell you to do is you can get a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, mini pry bar in there. And what you're going to do is you're going to push this against this way. But because this is one of the newer cars, I'm not too sure this is how it works. But the older Hondas and all the other vehicles back in the day, Chevy, Ford, GM, you could just compress the piston by pulling it forward. The way they went to them now is you actually have to spin reverse or spin forward and push back at the same time for it to reseat itself. Because if you don't, when you're trying to push it back, what you're going to do is, since it needs to go counterclockwise or clockwise, depending on the year, make, model, vehicle, and manufacturer, if you don't do that, you can damage the internal piston that's inside this caliper. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get this bad boy off, and I'm going to show you, once I'm done, I'm going to show you exactly what I did to get it off. But usually just a pry bar on the inside of the caliper pushing up in the opposite way is enough to get it. Some of these vehicles do come equipped with that electronic parking brake assist, and what that electronic parking brake assist does is there's a motor located right here on the solenoid, well, I mean on the cylinder for the brake, and it's got gears in it. What it does is it just kind of tightens itself up and engages the parking brake. Luckily this one has the ABS ABS wire right here. So that's pretty good. It's not in our way over here. So I'm gonna get this off right quick and then I'll be right back with you. Okay, with a little gentle persuasion and a little pressure applied at the front point right here, I was able to get it off just enough that it was able to come free from the brake caliper and pads. You see that little notch right there? Sorry, that little notch right there and the brake? That's what holds on into this. And this one is one of those countersunk calipers. So as you're turning it, the pressure has to be applied. So I'm going to do that later. I actually have a tool with the part number ready for you guys. You can get it from AutoZone. It's a OEM front and rear brake caliper tool, part number 57111. This one comes equipped with all the stuff that you need to be able to get your caliper back in place. It's got all the little keys that go to it for all the makes, models, and everything. So this is a good kit to get. I believe it was like 40 some odd dollars through AutoZone. You can rent it, but if you got the money and you're going to keep your car, you might want to invest in doing this, because this kind of thing will come in handy all the time, especially when you're doing brake jobs. The parking brake assist is actually located on the caliper itself. That's what this line is. So it doesn't have the electronic parking brake, but it does have the old school handbrake or foot pedal that you got to press down in order to engage the parking brake. But this thing does look good. It's still looking good. So I'm gonna take these brakes off right quick. I mean, the brakes ain't that bad. They look pretty decent, but this is where it comes into effect that you got to worry about your brake system, because the front one looks like it has a little bit more meat than the rear one. So that could be something that's caused by the caliper itself going in and out. But the wear pattern on it's pretty good. I mean, I ain't gonna knock it. Look at the difference in the pad. Hold on, let me pause this right quick. All right, so here's the new pad. You can tell the difference right there. That's a pretty big difference. So if you look at it, that's not as high as it normally would be, but you know, aside from that, it's still pretty decent. But the customer requested to have them changed anyway, because he said he's going to be doing a lot of traveling. He'd rather get to it now sooner than later. So this is a direct fit part from AutoZone. Duralast part number for this vehicle is MKD 1451. These are for the rear brakes. They are the ceramic pads. They have multiple levels of brakes that you can go. They've got upgraded brakes. These are kind of the ones to get you by, but you can get upgraded brakes, the ones that are more sustainable for a longer period of time, produce less dust, because this is what happens with brake pads when they've been used. They start creating what's called dust flakes, and it gets literally everywhere. So this is something that you can take care of if you want to upgrade your brakes. If you don't, you can only do what you got to do with what you got. These are a decent little brake pad to put on your car. It'll last you a while. 90% of your stopping power isn't going to come from your rear brakes. It's going to come from your front brakes, because that's where your transmission is, and that's why you got bigger pads on the front than you do the rear. The rear help, but they are not what stops the car. What stops the car is the actual front of the car. So stand by. Let me get these cleaned up and get these new ones. All right. So sorry about that. I had a phone call and it knocked off the video, so I'm gonna do it. Piece that one to this one. So once you get the caliper off and the brakes changed up, it's a good idea to clean up these little brake housing units. They're like little metal tabs that are on the inside of the caliper holder. You can clean them off with like a brake pad cleaner. I use a little bit of WD-40, wipe down all the dust, and a nice little metal bristle brush to just get all that dirty gunk and brake stuff from the old pads off. That way it has a nice clean area to go to. If you do go to the AutoZone and you get the brakes, they will try to sell you that brake grease, stuff like that. I don't really mind it. It's $1 something, maybe $2. Ain't a big deal, but it doesn't really do anything for your car. It does help your brake pads slide a little bit, but some lithium grease, what is it, like some of this blaster penetrating lithium grease. That'll do just about the same thing, and it'll last about the same amount of time, because that grease isn't going to survive through all the elements that you put your car through during the week, month, year, whatever. So I mean, cleaning it and doing it is just as good as, you know, spending the extra dough to get those little packets for, you know, 2 for one for each side or whatever, and then it'd be all gummy. So cleaning it up is important. This is the hard part. This is my hard part. So for this vehicle, your make and model, the brake caliper itself, you see that little cross in it? It is clockwise set. So you have to spin the inside, this piece, you have to spin it clockwise and put pressure on it at the same time. That's why this tool comes in handy, okay? Now I'm just going to give you a brief thing of how I did it, because unfortunately trying to record with one hand is not easy. So this is the component I'll put together. It comes like this in the box. So let me show you right quick. It comes like this with this backing plate right here. You do have multiple other little things that you could use to adapt it to whatever vehicle, your make and model that you have. So you pull this bad boy out, and this is the I guess you would say like the C clamp. This is the clamp that actually is going to apply the pressure on this point forward, and when it does that, you know, your cylinder is going to go back against it in the opposite way. But you're also going to have to turn this and tighten it in counterclockwise form with the backing plate on it, so it can create that twist and push motion that it needs. So this plate, all you do for this, you put it on the outside of the T, then you run it through, and then once it seats against the little lip that it has right there when it is made. So this goes against the outer deal right here on the inside. Like, hold on, let me try and do this right quick. Okay, all right, so it's gonna look like this, and then in the end, you see how it has those teeth? Well, those 2 teeth are enough for you to get lined up inside the teeth on the inside of this little channel. See this? Those right there are the teeth that'll turn, and then once you apply pressure on this screw, it'll pull this piece back while pushing this piece forward and spinning from this fulcrum. All right, so once it's back far enough that it'll slide back on the brakes, you need to make sure that it's lined up. You see how it has the cross like that? Remember this little point right here on the back of the brake? This slides in to there, and then you're able to seat the caliper over that module. See? So now all you got to do is throw your bolts in it, torque them down. I believe the proper torque is 35 foot-pounds, but I always go a little bit more. You can I wouldn't recommend hand tightening, but you do have to give them a little bit extra. No ugga-duggas, because I don't have a air compressor or anything like that. So you do this same stuff on the other side, and that's the rear brake. So I'm going to pause it right now. I'm going to do the other side, and then I'm going to move to the front and resume the video.